Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is collecting the data we need to just build some position versus time graphs so that we can practice extrapolating from them, making the graph, getting the best fit lines, getting the equations and all that kind of stuff. The stuff we worked on the other day, just a little bit more practice with it. Okay, so the problem we're investigating is what's the relationship between distance and time of an object traveling at a constant speed? Okay, so if something is traveling at a constant speed, the other day we talked about that, actually yesterday, we talked about what a position versus time graph of an object traveling at a constant speed would look like. What would it look like? Okay, so people are doing this, right? Okay, it's going to look like this. What kind of a relationship is that? Linear. Okay, so we know that this is going to be a linear relationship. That's probably something we'd want to include in our hypothesis. Okay, but we would also probably want to say something about, that the relationship between, well, that's kind of what we want to say, is that it's a linear relationship. What part of the hypothesis should it be in? That part about it being a linear relationship. Nope. It'll be in the if part. Okay, the if part always talks about the relationship between the two variables. Okay. All right, so since we're talking about the hypothesis, okay, generate a hypothesis about the relationship between distance and time for an object traveling at a constant speed or constant velocity. Okay, so the if part says it's this kind of relationship. The and part, well, we're making position versus time graphs of some constant velocity carts. Okay, the then part needs to tell me how are you going to calculate using your graph the speed or velocity of the carts. Okay, so that's kind of the really important part there. Okay. Okay, from the position versus time graph. That's what you need to say in the then part. Okay, and we did talk about that yesterday when we talked about position versus time graphs. It's in your notes, okay, from yesterday's lesson. Okay, the one on kinematics graphs. Okay, everybody with me there? All right. Now, our variables. Okay, so we want to identify the variables and explain, same as always in any lab. The variables that we're looking at here, obviously the two that we're kind of measuring are what? If we're making a position versus time graph, two of the variables are position and time. Okay, now, which one is manipulated and which one is responding? That you guys need to decide, but I'll give you a hint. We talked about on Monday that the manipulated variable is the one that goes on which axis? The x-axis, and the responding variable is always the one that goes on the y-axis. And since we looked at position versus time graphs yesterday, I think you'll be able to figure out which one goes on the x, which one goes on the y, and that'll tell you which one's manipulated, which one's responding. Okay, now, your explanation can't be because it's on the x-axis, okay, or because it's on the y-axis. Your explanation needs to talk about what's going on in the experiment, okay? And in the experiment, we are determining how long the experiment runs for, okay, in terms of time. We're determining the time the experiment runs for, okay? That should hopefully affect the position of the carts. Everybody follow? I gave you a pretty big hint there. Okay, you also need three controlled variables. Your controlled variables are anything that could affect the speed of the cart. In fact, I would say one of the controlled variables, should be the speed of the cart. Because if it doesn't travel at a constant speed, this whole experiment is for naught, because it always talks about something moving at a constant speed. Kind of important for these to have that then, okay? If it doesn't change, it's a controlled variable. So one of the things is the speed of the cart. Anything else that affects the speed of the cart, you need two more. All right, so on your Google Sheet, okay, you have, whoops, not what I wanted. Okay, on your Google Sheets, that's new. Okay, you have this setup. Whoop, not anymore. You have this setup. Okay, time is already put in there for you. We're going to be marking the position of the carts every 5 seconds. Okay, so we'll have the position of cart 1 in meters, the position of cart 2 in meters, and so on all the way through. Everybody follow me there? Okay, so this is going to be your data. Okay, you're going to, I'll show you when we get back how you just copy this into your lab report, right? Because you're going to copy it over as your observations. Then you'll build the graph and paste that in as well. Okay, so you'll have those two things coming from this sheet, okay, for your lab report. All right. Okay, and then so we've got our hypothesis, our procedure. Okay, so it says copy and paste your Google Sheets table and graphs here. Okay, basically the procedure is just that we're going to go out in the hallway and record some numbers while we run the carts down the hallway. It's a pretty simple procedure. Okay, the analysis, show how you would calculate the slope of each car's line on the graph. Okay, so what I'm looking for here, guys, in terms of the work I want to see for that, okay, is just show me how you solve for slope with that equation. Okay, what do you do to solve for slope using that equation? Okay, second thing, I want you to calculate how far each car would travel in 150 seconds. Obviously, we're only going to run this for probably 35 to 40 seconds. Okay, I want you to use y equals mx plus b to calculate how far it would go if we had it run for 150. And then number 3, using the equations for each car, calculate how long it would take each car to travel 100 meters. Okay, so similar idea, use the graphing equation for each vehicle, okay, to figure out how long it would take to go 100 meters. Yeah. I'm going to show you how to put them all on one graph. Okay, it's essentially what we did yesterday, just highlight all of the columns and it'll make each cart a new series. Remember, when we did it on Monday, it was like series 1, that was all we had. Okay, but if we highlight them all, it'll show all 4 series on there, and then we can make them, it'll make them different colors automatically, but we can make them different, you know, stars or circles or whatever. No, question number 2 is 150 seconds. How far would it go in 150 seconds? Question 3 is how long would it take to go 100 meters? Okay, 2 separate questions. And you're doing that for each car, right? So that's going to be 4 different calculations. And, really important, okay, show your work. Okay, whether you do it by hand and then snap a picture of it and throw that picture in there, or whether you actually type it out, it shouldn't be too hard to type it out, okay, on here and show it that way. But show your work for all of those, because if you went wrong, I kind of need to know where you went wrong. Right, conclusion, same as always, copy and paste your hypothesis, and then, you know, did our graph look the way we predicted? Were we able to calculate the velocity the way we predicted in the hypothesis? Okay, and then for the evaluation, okay, give me some sources of error. Right, now, one thing I am going to tell you here in terms of how we're going to run this procedure, because it'll help you with your sources of error, is that these carts, well, they're very old. They're probably close to as old as you are. And they're not in very good shape anymore. Oh, shoot. I need new batteries for that one. They're not in very good shape anymore. And they don't travel very straight for a couple of reasons. They're old and crappy, so they don't travel straight. And secondly, the floor in the atrium is nowhere near flat. Okay, if you've ever looked at when the sun is kind of glaring on it and you kind of lean down like this, there are humps and bumps all over the place in that floor. Okay, they had some sort of problem with the cement when they poured it for the floor, and the guy on the power trowel couldn't get it flattened before it set. So this is actually like I think the 3rd or 4th set of lino that we have out there. Okay, like the flooring has had to be pulled up and replaced several times in the like 10 years that we've been here, because the floor is so warped it can't stick. Okay? And it peels up in certain places. So the floor is not flat. Okay, and if you've got a bunch of kind of bumps and stuff, you know, the cart kind of tips, and well, maybe that makes it not go straight. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to guide the cart as it travels down the hallway. In order to do that, okay, we're going to have a driver. And the driver is going to flick the switch and let the cart go, and they're going to walk right beside it, and they're going to keep it running beside the measuring tape I'm going to have on the floor. Okay, so the measuring tape will run kind of right here, and then you will just give it slight adjustments with your feet. Not big adjustments with your feet, okay, small adjustments with the feet, just to keep it on course. Okay, everybody follow there? All right, now there's going to be one person who's a timer and one person who's a marker. Okay, so the timer will tell the marker every 5 seconds that they need to put a marker down on the tape. Okay, the marker we're going to use are just little yellow sticky notes. Okay, so we're just going to use these. Okay, and the marker will say, they'll just count like, 3, 4, 5. And when it gets to 5, okay, the person who's the marker will place the yellow sticky note right on the measuring tape where the cart was at that instant. Okay, so the marker's kind of got to walk or shuffle beside this thing as it moves along and be putting markers down every 5 seconds on the tape. Okay, that's a good question. In order to make a good kind of controlled experiment, the marker needs to they can choose front or back as long as they do it for every cart. Okay, so your method needs to be the same, whether you mark in the front of the cart or the back of the cart. Realistically, this goes a lot faster than I make it sound. Okay, and so you'll be lucky if you get that down anywhere where the cart sort of was, okay, when the marker said it was 5 seconds. So it's just do your best. But one of the things we want to make sure of when we measure is that we always measure from the front edge of the note. Okay, so when I place it on the tape, okay, I don't want to measure from the back of it, I want to measure from the front of it. Okay, that way we're not bringing in the length of the sticky note as a source of error. Okay. All right, does that sort of make sense? Okay, so let's see if we got 4 carts here that are going to work. Okay, your chart should look something like this, okay, for period 1 anyway. I'll probably make a separate sheet for each period today, but it should look like this. Make sure, guys, that you don't have any M's in the same field as you have any of our measurements, because we said on Monday that confuses Google Sheets. It doesn't know what to do when there's letters and numbers in the same field. Okay, so it should just look like this. All right, and then if we want to make a graph of that, we follow the same procedure we did on Monday. Okay, so I click on the top box and highlight everything. And then I go to Insert, I go down to Chart, and then I select Scatter Plot from the chart types. Whoop. That's not good. Oh, okay, here we go. Switch rows, columns. Don't want that. There we go. If it accidentally has switch rows and columns checked, uncheck it. I don't know why it would do that, but okay, we want it to not do that because we have the data the way we want it. Okay, so if it does accidentally check this box, uncheck that box. Okay, and then I can go into customization and I can do all that other stuff that we did. Okay, so I'm not going to go 5 versus time. I'm going to call this probably like Graphing Lab. Position versus time. Okay, and then put your labels in. Time in seconds is fine for that one. Left vertical is not going to be 5. It's going to be position in meters. Okay, and then we're going to scroll down to series. Okay, so right here for series, we've got cart 1 in position. So that's going to be this first set of blue dots. Okay, you can do whatever you want to that. If you want to change the color, you can. You can change the shape if you want. So I'll make it stars. Okay, so it looks different. And then I'm going to go down to trend line and put in linear. So it puts a trend line on for those points. And then I want it to spit out the equation for that line. Okay, and I might even, no, that's good. Yeah, use equation. That's all we need there. Okay, and then we do that for every other cart on the graph. Okay, to do that, we go back up to series and we click and we do cart 2. Okay, and we do exactly the same thing we did for that. You can make it triangles just so it stands out a little bit more. Okay, add the linear trend line, tell it you want the equation, and it spits it out there. Okay, so do that for every one of them, and then you'll have your equations to do your analysis with. Now, I did tell you, I'm just going to insert that here. Okay, I did tell you that you are going to need to copy this data over into your lab report. So everybody watching here, here's how you do that. Okay, you don't have to do it right now, just kind of watch the steps. Once you have that graph built, the graph is selected. You need to click over here to unselect the graph. Okay, then you can go back, highlight everything, Control C to copy it, and bring it over to your lab report and put it right here where it says to. So I'm just going to create an extra line there. Control V to put it in. Okay. Now you'll notice that sometimes the stuff doesn't show up in the field. That's an easy fix. Okay. Just highlight those ones and justify them to the left. Okay. Clicking on this button right here, or right align. Sorry. Okay. So you put them over there and then they show up. The numbers are usually pretty good about showing up. Then it's in there, and then I showed you the other day how to put the graph in there. Okay, just go back, select the graph. Okay, actually unselect the stuff there. Select the graph. Okay, copy chart. Go back to your lab report. Link it, and it's in there. You're done. You've got your data and your graph in. Takes 5 minutes. All right, then you can work on the analysis after that. Okay. If you got questions, let me know. Okay. Okay. So this really doesn't apply to those of you that are here. This is more for people who aren't here. Okay. So if you need to put anything in your spreadsheet because you're not here and you don't have the data, okay, you can open up. When you open up Graphing Lab, it'll show the handout. And then it'll show Graphing Lab data, period 1 or period 2 or period 3, whatever period you're in. Okay, just open that. You won't be able to do anything in there because it's view only. Okay, but what you will be able to do is copy and paste all the data into your spreadsheet. Okay, so if you click on this top one here, you can highlight all of it. Okay, highlight all of it and then just copy and put it in your spreadsheet, the one that says U3 Graphing Lab spreadsheet with your name up here instead of student Codair, and you can paste it in where I have this data, so you'd have a new sheet, okay? And you can just press Control V then, okay, and paste it in and do all the work you need from there, okay? For those of you that are here, it doesn't apply to, but for those of you that weren't here because you're at the net retreat, that's how you're gonna put your data in, okay? Just highlight it from my version, copy it into yours, and you're good to go.